Well, Jerry Manuel said before the game tonight he was undecided whether to carry the lineup card to home plate. He said he wanted to last past the first inning tonight, but as you can see, he and Brian Runge, who has his back to you on the right, all smiles before the game. So bygones apparently are bygones after last night's bumping and ejection. There's your Ford starting lineup for the Mariners tonight. The Mariners put up 11 runs and 15 hits last night. Pretty good for a team that's last in the American League in runs scored. John Maine will try and cool them off tonight. Ichiro Suzuki leads things off, and Maine starts him off. Misses low with a fastball for ball one.
Well, here's Johnny's numbers for the season. His 16th start. Good strikeout ratio there to innings pitched. I like the fact that the new pitching coach for the Mets is saying that he wants John the pitch upstairs.
Suzuki hits it in the air to left field, and Marlon Anderson makes the grab for the first down.
And the Rico Mets defense, and Tatis gets another start tonight with that 3-hit performance last night. He's out in right this time, started in third last night. David Wright is back in the lineup after his rare day off. Marlon Anderson gets another start out in left field. So juggling the lineup, trying to find the winning combination, Jerry Manuel.
But I think that what Jerry said while we were on that last road trip after he took over the job about rewarding performance really is present in the lineup here tonight, as Jose Lopez takes inside 2-0. Marlon Anderson came off the bench last night when Beltran got ejected, got a couple of hits. He's in the lineup tonight. Tatis 3 hits last night. He's in the lineup tonight. Schneider 3 hits last night. He's in the lineup tonight. 2-1 now to Lopez. So Jerry's being true to his word in terms of rewarding performance.
Well, a welcome return will be obviously of Ryan Church, which is very expectant. He's going to be down in Brooklyn getting some playing time and hopefully be ready.
To center field for Beltran, who's right there waiting for it. So 2 fly ball outs for Maine. 2 out and nobody on. Now Ryan Church sitting in the dugout with one of Brian Schneider's helmets just to make sure that he's okay.
Very funny.
The plan is for him to play for Brooklyn tomorrow as a DH, which means that you certainly can't expect him to rejoin the club on Friday, because he'll have to play at least 1 game in the outfield down there before he's ready. Raul Ibanez takes a strike, but as we mentioned in the opening, and the Mets have now just made it official, the Mets have claimed Andy Phillips on waivers. Phillips, you might remember, played quite a bit of first base for the Yankees over the last 4 years. He was with the Reds only briefly this year, hitting .315 in AAA. And Phillips, a 31-year-old journeyman right-hand hitter, but a guy the Mets hope can help with their bench. 2-1 to Ibanez. And you know, when you consider the fact the Mets recently hired Wayne Krivsky, the recently fired Cincinnati general manager, to join their staff, it's not surprising the Mets would pick up a player from the Cincinnati organization. 2-2 now to Ibanez.
Well, Ibanez had a big night last night. 3 hits, a home run, and 3 RBI. And those 2, the home run and the second single, where 3 RBIs were had there, were all on breaking balls from Oliver Perez. And it just seems to me Oliver is he pitching with a sore arm? He's throwing a very, very low velocity breaking ball. And Ibanez, as I said last night, the first game of the series was just eaten alive by 91-mile-an-hour fastballs by Santana. And
Ibanez tomahawks that pop-up. Schneider hoping for enough room, and he's got it. So John Maine off to a fast start with a 1-2-3 opening inning. Mets come to bat with no score. Jose Reyes, the igniter, will try and get things started in a positive fashion for the Mets tonight. He had been going great guns before last night when he took an 0 for 4. Snapped a 7-game hitting streak. Reyes at 293 for the year. Miguel Batista's first pitch misses low for ball 1. There's your Geico starting lineup for the Mets, and as we noted, Tatis, Anderson, Schneider all being rewarded for good games last night and in the lineup tonight. And Batista falls behind 2-0.
well, the veteran Miguel Batista, of course, was on that championship team that defeated the Yankees, the Arizona Diamondbacks. Back in 01, was it, Gary?
0-1. He pitched Game 5 in that series. Pitched a brilliant game at Yankee Stadium. 7 2/3 scoreless, but that's one of the games that Young-Hyun Kim let get away. There's a strike to Reyes, 3-1. But Batista had a career high 16 wins for Seattle last year. This year has been working both as a starter and as a reliever, and he's done that throughout his career.
Well, he started as he pitched himself right out of the rotation. His 13 starts. This is his 14th tonight. Where at the beginning of the season he pitched himself right out of that rotation.
And he walks Reyes to start the bottom of the first.
And just don't understand that pitch selection, but we're going to talk about that later. Now give you the Rico defense, and of course Ichiro Suzuki in right field, the perennial, well, probably the best hitter in the game right now. Boy, oh boy, what a player. The struggling Richie Sexton at first base, excuse me. The rookie Clement just got called up, left-hand hitter, power hitter. He's back in the lineup.
We'll see if Reyes tests Batista and Clement quickly as Castillo takes a strike. Clement's thrown out just 1 out of 3 since being called up, and Batista has only had 2 out of 11 thrown out with him on the mound.
Getting back to that pitch selection, he falls behind 3-0 on Reyes. You don't want to walk Reyes. He comes back with 2 fastballs, 3-2, and he throws a 3-2 slider. If Jose Reyes it takes you deep, it's 1-0. So what? It's top of the first inning. Here's a fastball, hit it. I got 8 gloves out there. Take a chance. Now you got this guy on base who's got 26 stolen bases. I just don't understand that.
You know, walks have been a problem throughout Batista's career. 1-1 to Castillo, and this year Batista averaging over 6 walks per 9 innings. 40. He's had a fascinating career, though. He really has. He's gone from starter to reliever. Just 3 years ago, he was closing games in Toronto.
Well, he's bounced around as a 10-year veteran, 10-year plus. Came up with the Pirates originally back in '92. That's when his major league career started for him. Florida, Cubs, Montreal, KC, Arizona, Toronto, back to Arizona, Seattle now.
Reyes getting a healthy lead, and he takes off. Strike to Castillo, and Clement's throw not nearly in time, and Reyes has his 27th stolen base of the year.
Well, Reyes had a real healthy lead and a terrific jump, and you can just forget about it. You can have a howitzer back there, and you're not going to throw him out.
Well, Clement is a hitter who catches, and it took him a long time to get rid of that ball.
It wasn't proper fundies.
So the Mets with a runner in scoring position and nobody out. 1-2 to Castillo. And he takes the changeup outside. 2-2.
Well, we'll see. Jerry Manuel has stressed finding ways to score runs. The offense is struggling. There's Jerry doing the little things, and this is what Castillo is very good at, situational hitting. I love that camera angle right there.
Good shot of the dirt on Reyes' uniform. In the dirt, and it gets behind Clement, and that'll move Reyes over to third. Well, Clement couldn't block it. Wild pitch for Batista, and the Mets have a runner at third with nobody out.
Well, tough chance for Clement, and he's not the most agile back there behind the plate. As Gary said, he's an offensive player. And the Mets are in business here to get on top early.
Corners in, middle infielders back. 3-2 to Castillo. And he grounds one to second. That'll get the run in. Reyes trots in to score on the ground out by Castillo. A Reyes run. Walk, stolen base, wild pitch, ground out. The Mets score without a hit and lead 1-0.
Well, again, I cannot emphasize again the pitch selection when he walked Reyes Batista. Infield back, it's a gimme. The only place you can't go is third base and pitcher. You can see you can make your read easily, and if you're 2 strikes on Castillo now, he's got to put the ball in play. Fastball meant to be in, bleeds out over the plate.
David Wright takes a strike.
Well, David has been struggling, and he's hitting in his last 12 ball games .234. So he got a day off last night. Hasn't attempted a steal in quite some time, if I'm correct, huh, Gary?
No, he's been very stagnant at first base. Reyes Wright hits it in the air to deep left field. Back goes Ibanez to the wall, and it's out of here. David Wright, after a day off, comes back smoking. His 13th home run of the year, and it's 2-0 New York. Rest and rejuvenation.
Well, just a hanging slider up and out over the plate and making his manager look like a genius.
Here's Carlos Beltran, fresh off his ejection last night. He takes a strike.
Oh, it's a changeup. You saw the four fingers on the ball, like a palm ball almost. And that didn't fool David.
So the Mets off to a fast start. A 2-0 lead, 3 batters into the first inning. David now with 13 homers and 57 runs batted in. And both those totals lead the ball club.
You know, a lot of times when you get a day off, Gary, and you've been in a rut and you're struggling, and it's still a young career for David. And he's had an inordinate amount of success and very few slumps. He had a big slump last year early, came out. He's always been consistent, and here he is again, another year, another slump. And another big slump. And it's good to get your mind off of it. Get you a day away where you don't have to go up there and grind it out, and you don't get a smile on your face. And when I got a day off, I was struggling. I wouldn't even take BP.
Ball 4 goes to the backstop, and Beltran is on first base, and an ugly start for Miguel Batista. 4 batters in, 2 walks, and a home run.
First baseman, number 21, Carlos Delgado.
Well, there you see the numbers on Wright over the last 20 games compared to what came before, and you know, that 3-week span certainly made it apparent that he needed some kind of a break. And the other thing about David is that, you know, you go back to when he was a minor leaguer and they had to cut down on his pregame routine because he was just working too hard and wearing himself out for games. And I think at times he still has a tendency to work a little too hard.
Well, I always have felt now that I've been back in the game now for what, over 10 years. It's almost like the players are obviously in great shape. And it just seems to me that maybe they should. I always took a month off when the season was over. Just let my body recoup. And these guys come in shape, ready to go, and they don't have a reserve tank. Most of them, they're in such great physical condition. You know, spring training, I used to come in around, you know, 10, 13 pounds heavy. Start the season maybe 10, 8 pounds heavy, and you know, by the middle of June, you lose it. You're down to your fighting weight.
Carlos Delgado celebrating his 36th birthday today, and now Batista behind him, 3-0. But you know, to a layman, they hear 1 day off, and they think, well, what can 1 day off do for a guy?
Well, it depends on the individual. I can only speak for myself, and it's when you're in a grind, in a rut, I cannot tell you how good it feels. And boy, Batista's just in a world of trouble.
Third walk of the inning. I mean, he's been walking a lot this year, but he is way off in the first inning, and that'll draw a visit from Mel Stottlemyre.
But getting back to the day off, it's a day you don't have to go up there and get 4 or 5 at bats, and you're not feeling good at the plate, and you don't get away from it and not have the day in, day out grind of it when things aren't going right. Now, it's also a day when you kind of want to watch too, watch the pitcher get in a position where you can, if you're in a slump, and you can see Roy Cochran up there in the bullpen. He pitched the first night, sterling relief effort on his part in the first game. If you're in a slump, I'd always sit down the far end where Jerry Manuel is, as far as I could, to get the best view of home plate and try to watch, because it always looks easy from a distance as Fernando Tatis steps up. If I was red hot, I'd go out in the bullpen and sit out and BS with the relievers for 6 innings.
So here's Tatis coming off a 3-hit game last night. He filled in for Wright at third base, and he goes after the first pitch fastball and misses it. And you know, Jerry Manuel made that point. I mean, it was said to him, well, you've got a day off Thursday, isn't that enough? And he said, having a day off watching is different from having a day off when the team's not playing.
That's a good point. I agree 100%. And it's just a day. It's a day you can more take a sigh of relief and say, I'm not in there. Let me just catch my breath here. You know, you kind of just fight and you fight. You know, there was times I went in a slump, Garrett, and I told David a couple weeks ago, and he looked at me kind of funny, like I was crazy. Is that, you know, you come out early and you take early BP, and you do it every day, and nothing. You're not getting anywhere. You're still in the slump. So I'd come out to the park one day, and I would just say, okay, I am not going to hit today, even though I'm mired. I'm going to go into this game ice cold. And you know what? That first at bat, it really made you bear down because you hadn't had any warm-up swings, and sometimes it helped. I mean, just try to break up the routine, the monotony.
Worked for Richie Allen. He used to never take batting practice.
He was a great player, that's for sure.
And then he'd go out and go 4 for 4. 0-2 to Tatis, who has a couple of home runs in his career against Batista in just 8 career at bats. 2 on and still only 1 out with 2 runs home. And the slider misses to Tatis, 1-2. Ramon Castro, the noted jokester.
And that's the new pitching coach, Dan Warthen.
Ramon couldn't have already given him a hot foot, could he? I mean, Dan's only been here a week. 1-2 to Tatis. He's playing right field tonight. And he pulls one. Nice stop by Beltre. Goes for the tag, and safe is Beltran at third. Beltre with an extraordinary grab to save a double. But Beltran gets in around Beltre's tag, and Jim Riggleman comes out to argue.
Well, let's see if he makes the tag. I kind of question this play here. He probably could have got the force out. And tough angle right there. I think he probably beat it.
Keith, why wouldn't he just dive for the bag with his glove?
Exactly, I agree. If you're going to do this, go to the bag. Maybe he would have beat him too. He should have just gone to second base.
I mean, he had much more time to get to the bag than to tag the player because maybe
he may not. He may not have beat him there. He should have just gone to second for the force out. And there's a Golden Glover right there. He won the Golden Glove last year at third. And so that's just
the slide to the front side there.
Let's see right there. He's safe. Good call by Brian Runge. And not a smart play by Beltre. And look at his hat.
You think he had an out at second?
He had an out at second, yes. Delgado's running.
They've scored on a base hit.
It should be a base hit. I agree on this one. But Delgado running, I think you got a chance to get Delgado.
So bases loaded with 1 out, and the Mets have a chance for a huge first inning. Marlon Anderson takes a strike on the outside edge. Marlon came off the bench last night to get a couple of hits.
He's got, you got to know where your runners are, and then obviously Delgado's not the fastest runner on the planet.
Marlon playing left field tonight. He's got good career numbers against Batista as well. And he takes it wide. Marlon 8 for 21 against Batista. That's a .381 average. 37-year-old Miguel Batista, noted poet, noted author, and struggling on the mound right now. Now tip held by Clement, and it's 1-2.
Well, it'd be nice for the Mets to put a W on the board with the Phillies struggling, losing 8 of their last 9, 6 in a row out on the West Coast. They would be able to look up on that scoreboard and see a Met W. Put a little pressure on them.
Beltran, Delgado, and Tatis, the base runners, with 1 out. Phillies lost in Oakland last night. Anderson fouls it off. Neil Brown hit a 3-run homer in the 7th for Oakland in that game last night. And the National League East has been just dreadful over the last week and a half, and it's really played into the Mets' hands in terms of not losing ground.
When Philly plays any kind of decent ball, the Mets are really in a lot of trouble.
2-2 now to Anderson. Gave you the stat earlier. Over the last 8 days, the National League East is a combined 9-26, and the Mets, who are 3-4 over that span, have the best record in the division in the last 8 days. 2-2 to Anderson, struck him out, and so Miguel Batista fans Marlon Anderson for the second out.
Well, he made a tough pitch on Marlon there. That's the best pitch of the day for him. He hasn't been able to get that slider over. And watch this one. Oh, that's a tough pitch to lay off.
So 2 out, base is still loaded. Now the number 8 hitter, Brian Schneider, will come up. That's what we were talking about, the standings the last 8 days. You know, sometimes it's not how many you win, it's when you win them. And, you know, if the Mets had chosen this time to go on a 7-2 stretch.
Well, that road trip, the 4-2 road trip, got him back in.
Schneider had 3 hits last night, but Batista throws a fastball by him, and it's 0-2.
Now all of a sudden Batista's found his rhythm throwing strikes. He's gotten himself in trouble with 3 walks in this inning.
This will be his 36th pitch of the inning. To Schneider, grounded to the right side. Lopez makes the play, and so the Mets score 2 in the opening inning. Jerry Manuel sat David Wright down last night. Turns out to be his best move. David responds first time up, his 13th homer, and the Mets are up 2-0.
Third baseman, number 20.
Second inning, Mets with a 2-0 lead. Adrian Beltre will lead off for the Mariners. Well, here's that play that Beltre tried to make.
Well, you can see right there he's got the timing of everything, and that split screen. It's pretty obvious that he had an easy force out at second base. So poor judgment on Beltre's fault. The Gold Glover.
Beltre 2 for 7 in this series, hitting at .241 now in his 4th year with the Mariners after that one extraordinary year he had with the Dodgers. Sometimes if you time it right and have that big year in your free agent season, you can cash in for life.
You have Scott Boras as your agent? I believe Scott's his agent.
Well, if you hit 48 home runs, generally no matter who your agent is, you got a pretty good chance of getting a lucrative contract.
I would think so.
Beltre has never lived up to those numbers again. But he's a good player, plays every day, plays hard. Good fielder, great arm at third base.
We'll just take a look here now. We're talking about the new pitching coach, Dan Warthen, who's coming up here feeling his way.
Hit hard down to third. Wright knocked back on his heels, throws in the dirt. Delgado, the birthday boy, pulls it out. And that's the first out of the inning.
That's right. It's Carlos's 36th birthday. Happy birthday, Carlos. Nice pick. David trying to make your day exciting.
Center fielder, number 8, Jeremy Reed.
What does that mean? You get an extra scoop for your birthday?
Yeah, right.
Here's Jeremy Reed, and he takes ball 1.
I was just saying, you know, Dan Warthen just recently taking over the helm of the pitching staff. This is the second time through the rotation for Dan to take a look at the pitchers. There he is right there, particularly the starters, and start making his assessments of what corrections need to be done.
Big bouncer for Castillo, and that's the second out. Well, first time around under Dan Warthen, Maine gave up a 2-run homer in the first inning in Colorado and then pitched wonderfully the rest of his outing. Went 6 2/3, gave up just those 2 runs in a 7-2 win. And that was a big outing for John because he had been staggering for 3 or 4 starts. Not pitching horribly, but just not pitching nearly as well as he did the first 2 months of the season.
Well, too many pitches.
Yeah.
And I'll be watching closely here. And John right now is getting ahead. And when ahead, advantage pitcher, go put the hitter away. Don't monkey around.
1-1 to Richie Sexson.
You know, particularly if you got the stuff of that John Maine has. You're 0-2 as a hitter, 1-2. You're in trouble. The hitter's in trouble.
Right on the corner with a 94-mile-an-hour fastball, and it's 1-2.
And I must say, Dan Warthen, I liked his comments about pitching more upstairs. The staff needs to get more strikeouts.
And that's what Maine gets. High fastball, strikeout. Sexson down. Maine's retired the first 6. Fast start for John Maine and the Mets. They lead at 2-0.
Great.
John Maine had his 3rd hit of the year in his last start in Colorado. It was the 10th hit of his career in 112 at bats. And he goes down on 3 pitches as Batista gets him looking. Second strikeout for Miguel Batista. And that's the first out of the bottom of the 2nd.
The shortstop.
Now to bring up Jose Reyes, who drew a leadoff walk and scored a Reyes run in the first. Stolen base, wild pitch, ground out. 56 runs scored now for Reyes. That's 6th in the National League. And he draws Beltre in by bluffing the bunt.
Well, Batista looks like a different pitcher now. He's starting to throw strikes. Just sputtered in the beginning. First 5 batters in the lineup.
Reyes lofts this one to right field, and Ichiro Suzuki is there. And that's the 2nd out. So Batista, after throwing 36 pitches in the first inning, gets 2 quick outs in the 2nd. Met fans, for an in-depth look at all the top Mets highlights in each game, log on to SNY.TV and check out the IOHD plays of the game, located in the IOHD video lounge. Here's Castillo, who drove in the first Met run with a ground out, his 25th RBI. And he takes a strike. There's been a lot of talk about Castillo. Most of it started by Jerry Manuel, who said, we're going to play Castillo a day, sit him a day, see how he is. Well, now he started 3 straight days. And Jerry says that Castillo's reporting to him that he's feeling okay. And you go back to what we talked about last night. You know, Jerry said after the game, if this team doesn't play better, we're going to have to make changes. Lineup changes, rotation changes. Well, you look around and you look in the minor leagues, and there just aren't that many changes in terms of personnel that the Mets can make.
Well, I think that Jerry's throwing out the challenge here to the players on this team. And Castillo has made it plain he wants to play every day, does not want to be a part-time player. Well, Jerry's made it pretty plain that you have to produce. So what better way to get most out of your players?
Drops down the 2-out bunt. Beltre the barehand play off the bag. Sexton, and Castillo has a bunt hit. So after going 0 for his last 13, Castillo figured it would be a perfect time to lay down a bunt for a hit, and it's successful.
Well, not only a perfect bunt, right down the line, nicely charged by Beltre, but the fact that it's within 2 feet of the line makes it such a difficult throw for the third baseman. We'll see how he's running. Seems to be fine. Smells that hit.
Running in a straight line does not appear to be a problem for Castillo.
Lateral movement.
Yeah, fielding his position is a little tougher. Oh, here's David Wright, who homered his first time up, and David grounds this one just foul.
David in the first inning, last inning, after a day off, sends that changeup into the left center field bleachers.
13th of the year for Wright. Interesting that it's the first time this year that David has hit a home run behind in the count. It was an 0-1 pitch. Last year, he hit 6 home runs when behind in the count. And he hits this one to left field, and that's deep. Back goes Ibanez to the track at the wall, and it's out of here! David Wright with his 2nd home run of the night. A 2-run shot, and it's 4-0 New York. Most opportune rest since the 7th day.
Well, we'll see the pitch. They want to come inside, and it is inside. David just turns on it. That was not that bad a pitch. So nice hitting by David.
And both the home runs coming with David behind in the count. Again, it was an 0-1.
Well, Raul had no shot at that. Nice effort, but close but no cigar.
So the 2-out bunt hit by Castillo, prolonging the inning and giving Wright a crack at it. And David has responded with 2 home runs in the first 2 innings. Beltran down looking. no argument. Third strikeout for Batista. The Mets out to a 4-0 lead, and what an opportune time to talk with Mets hitting coach Howard Johnson. We'll join him from the dugout when we come back. Well, it's been all David Wright so far tonight. The Mets with a 4-0 lead as we go to the third, and Jeff Clement leads off, takes a strike from John Maine, and we're being joined from the Mets dugout by batting coach Howard Johnson. And God, you guys look like geniuses giving David the night off last night.
Well, it was pretty obvious after the other day. He was fatigued. I mean, physically he probably felt fine, but really it's mentally more than anything. I mean, he played every inning of every game, and we made 4 trips out west, and the time zone changes and different things like that. So it makes it tough on a guy, even when you're 24, 25 years old, you know, to be out there every day like that.
Hodge, it's Keith up here. Jerry's been making comments and working with you on getting the guys to come out early, work on their hitting, more situational hitting. Could you expound on that? Tell us what you've been working on.
Well, Jerry and I, you know, one of our goals is, you know, we've got to change the mindset of our guys offensively. I mean, we've struggled up to this point, but, you know, it's got a long way to go. We've kind of battled some injuries. We battled, you know, guys being out of the lineup for sustained periods of time, and that makes it tough. I mean, whenever you start losing players like a Moises or a Church, you know, guys are swinging the bat very well, you put a lot of pressure on other guys to pick up that slack, and it makes it pretty tough to do. And you know, that's kind of where we were at. So we're just trying to get guys to think a little bit better and just be a little bit more aware of situations and realize, you know, when pitchers are trying to make it, you know, that when they're adjusting to us, that we have to be able to be smart enough to, you know, to make the adjustment back. How a guy pitches his last start isn't always what he's going to do to us. So we just have to be more aware of that.
I've noticed also an extra early BP, a lot of early BP now under Jerry, cutting back on the BP for before the game, the actual BP time, and more guys coming out early. I've noticed everybody working the opposite field. Is there any particular theory behind that? Is that a philosophy of hitting, or is it just because the guys are slumping and out in front?
Yeah, I mean, the guys have been out in front a lot. You know, what we got to do is we got to be able to use the whole field better. You know, the message has been there all year. You know, we haven't changed from spring training, really from last year. You know, from the second half since I took over, you know, our philosophy has been the same. You know, we want to work the count, we want to try and get into that bullpen as quickly as we can. But we also got to be smart enough that if the starting pitcher is, you know, trying to get ahead and you know, he's laying fastball strike one in there, we got to be aggressive there. But as the count gets deeper and we get runners on base, we've got to be good enough to be able to use the whole field and not get ourselves out like we had been. And you know, why we've been struggling up. We've had so many ups and downs. It's hard for me to understand. I don't really know the reason. I can't say, you know, definitely it's this or definitely it's that. I just think it's just a kind of a group thing that we've fallen into. But you know, fortunately, you know, we've got a lot of good minds, baseball guys working on this thing, and you know, we're gonna get it straightened out.
Howard, one of the other points that Jerry has made is the team's tendency to score early and then kind of fade as games go along. Maybe play 5 or 6 good innings and then maybe 2 or 3 not so good ones. What can you as a hitting coach do to help guys maintain 9 innings worth of focus?
It's tough when you're not the guy hitting. I mean, you can tell them things and talk to them, and you know, there's such thing as overload too. You can overload a guy with information, and you know, if 162 ball games and, you know, 9 innings every night, you know, if you're constantly in a guy's ear, you know, that's going to wear on that player. And so you got to really pick your spots. You just can't be, you know, chatty Cathy for 9 innings for every guy. It just doesn't work that way. What you got to do is you got to be, you know, you just got to remind guys at the right time, you know, the situation and the add-on runs and things like that. You know, we've been good at scoring early, and then we go through these mid-game 4 or 5 inning slumps where I haven't figured it out. I don't know, because we've done it so many times, and yet we score late. You know, I mean, it's not like we just give up. You know, it seems like we just go through that lull and then we come back out on the other end. And I can't explain that, other than the fact that it's happened to us. You know, we've got to continue to try and fight through that. You know, we're trying to make guys more aware of those things. You know, you got to be sensitive to how players react to information. You know, and negative information can and that can be bad for them too. So you just gotta kind of tread your way through, and hopefully these guys will start getting on a roll. And it's just been bad here the last few nights. It's just been I can't. Yesterday was horrible. I mean, we fell behind so early on, really both games, and we were able to get nothing done offensively at all. And the guys throwing knuckleball last night. I mean, that was, you know, I can't. We had Carlos thrown out early and David with a day off, so we really had a skeleton crew out there.
Any particular pet project? I mean, individually, I know you've had some players slumping. Has there been any one player that you're spending more time? Obviously, David was in a slump, and he's a very important part of the ball club. But there are other guys. There's other guys struggling on the team too. And is there anything that you're doing specifically with these hitters that are struggling, and you know, David or Delgado, to help bring them around?
Well, when you go through our lineup, I mean, the guys that are in there basically every day that have been the most inconsistent have been Delgado and Castillo, and those two guys have been the ones that we tried to focus on the most. They've received the most of the attention. You know, Delgado, I mean, this guy's played a long time. We've tried a lot of different things. We've kind of isolated a few things that he has to do, you know, with his stride and his hands and the separation and the timing of the whole thing. Just that, you know, Keith, that when you get into the box and the game, you know, starts and the game speeds up, that, you know, guys become different people almost. You know what I'm talking about. It's just a different whole mindset that you can have everything perfectly, you know, what you want to do, the game plan, everything. But when you walk in the box and the guy makes his first pitch or whatever, especially when there's runners on base and you got 40,000 here, you know, ready to jump out of their seats, you know, it puts a lot of pressure on them. They become different hitters.
Ichiro lines it to center. Beltran's got it. Howard, thank you so much for spending some time with us. You provided us with great insight. Thank you.
You're anytime, guys. Anytime.
All right, Howard Johnson, the Mets hitting coach, joining us from the dugout. Middle of the third is Shea. The Mets with a 4-0 lead. Carlos Delgado leads off the home third. The Mets with a 4-0 lead on the strength of 2 David Wright home runs. Delgado walked his first time up, playing on his 36th birthday. Trying to snap out of an 0-for-12 slump right now. And it just seemed on the last road trip, Keith, that he was doing a great job taking the ball the other way, center field, left field, and he's kind of gotten away from that since we've been home.
Well, he's also has to do on top of that, if you're going to go that way, and there he tries to pull the ball away, is to take the inside pitch that's belt high and up, that's been giving him trouble. There's Jerry right there, and have enough discipline to take that pitch and wait for that ball. See the catcher, they're just setting up in on him.
Oh, and he gets hit. So Batista ahead in the count 1-2, and a birthday bruise for Delgado.
Well, he's just trying to come in, and they make mistakes. If you're going to miss with a power hitter like Delgado, you got to make sure you miss in.
So the Mets have a leadoff base runner for the second time in 3 innings, and now Fernando Tatis, who had an infield hit his first time up. Tatis playing right field tonight. The Mets hope to have Ryan Church back in right field before too long. Grounded down to third. Nice play by Beltre, but he throws a little too high, and Lopez can't handle it. Delgado goes to third, and the Mets have runners at the corners with nobody out. Well, Beltre with that range moving left, but the high flip.
Well, he just la-di-da'd it, and it just didn't look like Lopez was really. No, I'm sorry, that's a little too critical there. That's just a bad play by Beltre.
Will charge the error to Beltre on the throw.
It's like that old game show, What's My Line? Or will the real Seattle Mariners please stand up? The real Mariners are standing up tonight.
10th error of the year for Beltre. So the Mets with a scoring opportunity, first and third and nobody out. Marlon Anderson struck out his first time up, and he takes a strike. Well, we mentioned it in the opening tonight. The Mets are playing in their 47th season. They have never been swept, never, in a 3-game series by the team with the worst record in the major leagues.
Not even when they stunk?
Well,
back in the late 70s?
When they were the worst team in the major leagues. They couldn't get swept by the worst team in the major leagues.
That's right. You're right.
That would apply to the early 60s, probably even more so than the late 70s, early 80s. I'm trying to think, 1993, I think the Mets had the worst record in the National League. They lost 103 that year. Not sure if they had the worst record in the majors, but you get the idea. 1-1 to Anderson. And Marlin lifts one to left. That'll get a run home. Ibanez drifting over to grab it. Delgado tags. He'll score easily as the throw goes to second. Sacrifice fly for Marlin Anderson, and it's 5-0 New York. 7th run batted into the season for Marlin.
Well, you just want to get the run. You know, this is the second way to drive in the run here. Marlin, I'm sure, wanted to get a drive in 2, get a base hit. But you certainly don't want to leave the runner on third out there. Going right with that pitch, a fastball up and away.
So the second time in the game the Mets score a run without a hit. Ryan Schneider takes ball 1. The first inning was a walk to Reyes, a stolen base, a wild pitch, and a ground out. Here a hit batsman, an error, and a sacrifice fly. Schneider grounded out to second base to end the first inning. Jerry Manuel has talked a lot about putting runners in motion, playing more hit and run, even having guys who are not used to stealing bases occasionally steal bases. You mentioned even Delgado being put in motion at times.
Well, this is not a truck horse team. There goes Tatis.
So there you go. As Clement throws it high, and Tatis has his second stolen base. So Jerry Manuel true to his word and sending the non-base stealers and putting them in motion.
Well, Clement had, and again, no shot to throw out Tatis. Batista does not hold runners on well. He's slow home. Beats it easily. You know, getting back to your point, Gare, about the Mets and stealing bases, they're not a slow team. I mean, you've got Wright, Castillo, Reyes, Beltran, the top of your order that can steal bases and put pressure on the opponent from the get-go and throughout the game, and they should be. I agree with him 100%.
Well, certainly there's no issue with Reyes, but certainly in Beltran's case, Jerry has made it clear that he wants Carlos to run more, to not be afraid to get thrown out, to not worry about his stolen base percentage, to even run into an out from time to time. Three and 1 to Schneider with the pitcher on deck, and he walked him. So Batista, who walked 3 in the opening inning, issues his 4th walk of the night. And there are 2 men on for John Maine, who will come up to try to bunt him over.
Well, you know, also the other thing behind stealing bases like this is you're constantly putting pressure on the starting pitcher or the reliever and not allowing them to find their rhythm. They're constantly pitching in trouble. They've got to look over their shoulder, hold runners on. It takes away from their 100% focus on throwing a strike, and a good strike.
Well, Stottlemyre getting that Seattle bullpen cranking again, and Maine set to swing, and he takes a strike. Well, that surprised just about everybody in the ballpark. Might have surprised Luis Aguayo too, but maybe not. Mariners still play for that bunt, and this time John gives himself up and takes it outside. 1-1. Maine has 3 hits and 5 sacrifices on the year. And you know, that was the other thing Jerry said. He said, "Oh, I'll play hit and run with a pitcher up." He said, "I have no qualms about doing that in the right situation with the right guy." Maine misses the bunt attempt, and it's 1-2. Is this the return of rock and rollin'?
Is that Little Orphan Annie? Rusty Staub night.
Grounded slowly. That'll have the effect of a sacrifice as Beltre throws out Maine for the second out. The runners advance. Boy, Corcoran, who was up in the first inning, gets up again here in the third for Seattle.
Well, Jose Reyes is up here with a chance to really just break this game wide open, something the Mets haven't been doing.
Reyes walked, stole his 27th base of the year, and scored in the first inning. Fly down in the second. That scored 2 in the first, 2 in the second, and 1 here in the third. And Reyes pulls one foul. 0-2. Miguel Batista, this is his first start since the 7th of June. He's been working out of the bullpen recently because of the injury to J.J. Putz, the Seattle closer, who is still on the disabled list, but they needed a starter because Eric Bedard had to be pushed back because of back spasm. So the Seattle pitching staff a little messed up right now. Reyes takes it wide, although certainly they haven't pitched in the first 2 games of the series as though they were messed up, with the Mets scoring just 2 runs in 2 games. Luis Castillo on deck. 1-2 to Reyes.
Hit in the air to deep right field. Back goes Ichiro, looking up, and it's out of here. Jose Reyes with a 3-run homer. His 9th home run of the year, and it is 8-0 New York.
Well, the missing in action Mets offense has been found tonight. 8-0 New York.
Well, we talked earlier about putting a game away, and there's a hanging slider down over the middle. And Miguel Batista, you know now why he's 3-9 on the year with an ERA over 6 coming into this game. He is just getting his lunch handed to him.
That's a scored 4 runs in this inning on only 1 hit. A home run, a hit batsman, an error, a walk, and Reyes with the 3-run bomb. Reyes now with 9 home runs. He had just 12 last year, and we're not halfway through this season. It looks like a math equation.
Don't go there with me.
Well, 2 + 2 = 4. You can do that one. We're not talking about differential calculus. Castillo draws a walk.
Boy, oh boy, and that's going to be it. He's done.
Third baseman, Reyes.
5 walks given up by Batista, and Jim Riggleman has apparently seen enough before David Wright comes up for the 3rd time, hoping to hit 3 home runs in the first 3 innings, perhaps.
Wouldn't that be something?
Riggleman takes the ball from Batista, and so David will have to go to battle against a different pitcher. Roy Corcoran will come on from the bullpen. Reyes with a 3-run bomb, making it 8-0 New York. This call to the bullpen is brought to you by Verizon. Switch to Verizon Fios, TV, internet, phone. The Mets chasing Miguel Batista in the 3rd, leading 8-0. Roy Corcoran on to try and pick up the pieces for Seattle. And David Wright up for the 3rd time. He's already got 2 home runs tonight. He takes a strike.
It's a good matchup for David here. Guy that throws fastballs, likes to pound in.
One and 1 to David. Well, there have been 7 Mets in history hit 3 home runs in a game. No Met has ever hit 3 home runs in a game at Shea.
Is Kingman one of those? I'm sure.
Yes. Kingman is the only Met who's ever driven in 8 runs in a game. The last Met to hit 3 homers in a game was Jose Reyes, who did it 2 years ago in Philadelphia. Kingman did it at Dodger Stadium.
Piazza?
No. First to do it was Jim Hickman in St. Louis in '65, Kingman in LA in '76, Claudell Washington in LA in 1980, Strawberry did it at Wrigley Field in '85. Gary Carter in San Diego in '85. Edgardo Alfonso at the Astrodome in '99, and then Reyes in Philly in '06. And Wright walks, and the Mets have 2 men on. So that is 6 walks now issued by Seattle pitching in 2 2/3 innings. Batista walked 5. And Corcoran walks the first man to face him, and Beltran will be the 9th man up in the inning. Not a good night for Miguel Batista, who has a novel published called Avenger of Blood. Eek. Grounded behind the bag at second for Bloomquist, who's thrown to first just in time to get Beltran, and that ends the inning. But the Mets put up a 4 spot, highlighted by Jose Reyes' 3-run homer. And the Mets, through 3 innings, have built themselves an 8-0 lead. John Maine staked to an 8-0 lead as we start the 4th inning. And Jose Lopez hits the first pitch in the air to Marlon Anderson. 1 pitch and 1 out.
Affleck.
Oh, it's time for the Affleck trivia question. What was the runner-up name for the Mets when they were established? That is a great question. The New York Metropolitan Baseball Club, known as the Mets. There was a competition to try and figure out what the name of the new National League Baseball franchise should be. So what name finished second? Popped up off the bat of Raul Ibanez. And easy for David Wright, and on just 3 pitches, John Maine has 2 outs in the 4th inning.
Well, this is what we've wanted to see out of John. I think what Dan Warthen, the pitching coach, wants out of John is he's been deep in pitch counts. He's got great stuff. There's no need when you're ahead of hitters, and we see it so much today, and we talked about it with Ronnie, who's in the studio right now with Matt, is you're 0-2, you've got the hammer on hitters. And I've seen there was very few pitchers, small minority of pitchers when I played, that would go 3-2 on you if they were ahead 0-2. Predominantly, if they had you 0-2, they go get you, put you away.
Fouls it off.
I think you're seeing now John with this philosophy. He's got the stuff not to even mess around. You got a guy 0-2 who's that fastball of his, and the slider he's got working tonight, which is a very good slider, Gary, by the way. He's awful tough.
And Beltre reaches for it and grounds it out to Castillo, and a very quick inning for John Maine. He gets them out on just 6 pitches. Middle of the 4th, 8-0 New York. They go to the bottom of the 4th. The Mets with the big lead. You look at the lights of Citi Field across the way. Well, Carlos Delgado has been aboard twice already tonight with a walk and a hit by pitch. Now facing the reliever Roy Corcoran. And he takes ball 1. Miguel Batista, 2 2/3 innings, 5 hits, 8 runs, 4 of them earned, 5 walks, 3 strikeouts, a hit batsman, a wild pitch, and 3 home runs. Right into the shift to Bloomquist, the shortstop, and Delgado retired 1 out. Let's check in with Kevin Burkhardt. Kevin?
You know, guys, Ken Obergefell, one of the new Met coaches who is settling in here, just beginning week number 2, really. And besides coaching first base, he's doing a little bit of everything. He's helping Sandy Alomar with the infield. He's helping with outfield positioning. He told me he'd catch a bullpen if Jerry Manuel wanted to, and that's how ecstatic he is to be here. But I think the thing that was interesting talking to him is just about the interaction with Jerry and his coaching staff. I said, you know, how much will you evaluate players? You know a lot of these guys. You've been in the organization. You were managing at AAA. He said, well, we all will evaluate players. In fact, I'll watch, especially early on the first couple of weeks, and just see what I see. Jerry has told us that he wants our input. He wants us all to evaluate and give us our ideas, and with that kind of go forward. But he also said that if he sees something, he would tell Jerry before he tells the player, and then they would kind of go about telling the player together, which I also found kind of fascinating as well. So apparently, guys, Jerry Manuel really stressing input and evaluation from all of his coaches as Tatis watches that one goes by. Back up to you.
And I wonder also, you know, we mentioned earlier that the Mets had claimed Andy Phillips off waivers from Cincinnati. Phillips has been playing in the International League at Louisville, and I'm sure they must have sought Obergefell's input, having seen him play this year.
I'm sure they have, and also the Mets as you said earlier, Gary, hired Wayne Krivsky, who was the general manager for the Reds earlier this year, was fired really in the first 2 weeks of the season. Rather quick gun there, but Reds got off that horrible start, and he's a first baseman and a right-hand hitter. So is there some platooning maybe going on at that position down the road?
2-0 to Marlon Anderson. Well, there's no question that the Mets need to bring some more bats in. I mean, they've been playing shorthanded without their 2 starting corner outfielders for a long time. Their bench is very much depleted. They've been carrying a third catcher, which, you know, for the most part is kind of a useless situation for an extended period of time. And it, you know, they haven't had the players in AAA to call up and make an impact on that bench or to be able to plug into a starting position. So whether Phillips plays a lot or not, they have to do everything they can right now to try and upgrade the bench. 2-2 to Anderson. You know what I mean? I mean, under normal circumstances with Anderson and Chavez and Tatis on the bench, it's a good bench. But if those guys are playing all the time, you got a problem.
Well, Whitey Herzog always said injuries weaken your bench because you wind up playing your bench and calling up guys from AAA that probably, I mean, it's plan B.
Or C. Bounce slowly and foul ball.
And I just had a bad feeling, and I know that our boss, Mr. Gowdy Jr., who's here tonight, said don't play the doctor up there. But, you know, I tore my calf at Cleveland, and I had a tough time coming back on that injury. That is such a difficult injury to come back. And when we found out that they said he strained his calf, well, okay, fine. That's a tough injury to come back from.
Comebacker for Corcoran, and he throws out Anderson. And Jerry Manuel even said the other day that right now he has to plan to not have Alou the rest of the season. John Maine goes back to the mound with an 8-0 lead. 5th inning, John Maine not only working with an 8-0 lead, he's yet to allow a hit through the first 4. Jeremy Reed will lead off for the Mariners in the 5th. And he takes a changeup for a strike. Well, now R.A. Dickey, the Seattle pitcher who pitched 7 shutout innings last night, he revealed after the game last night that he had a conversation on Monday with the noted knuckleballer Tim Wakefield. And Wakefield gave him some pointers that paid off for him last night. That was his best start in his career. Well, Wakefield is pitching tonight for the Red Sox. He's pitching a shutout in the 5th inning. He's allowed 1 hit against Arizona.
Why would you tell the enemy in your league?
Well,
how about a pitcher?
I don't think the Red Sox are really worried about the Mariners, do you?
No. Well, there it is right there at the top of the 5th. That's St. Louis winning again.
It's Tim Wakefield against Randy Johnson, by the way, as Reed has the first base hit for the Mariners as he pulls it past Delgado.
Well, this is a bullet right here.
First baseman, Richie Sexton.
That was the invisible cards. You are ad-libber. You're like Bob Hope.
Bob Hope never ad-libbed in his life.
I know.
Swing and a miss by Sexton.
Jonathan Winters. Jonathan Winters.
What about Jonathan Winters?
He was a great ad-libber.
I love Jonathan Winters.
Oh, he was hilarious, wasn't he? It was hilarious.
Richie Sexton struck out his first time up. And it's taken high with a changeup, 1-1.
Jonathan Winters, when I was with the Cardinals, came in our clubhouse. He was a Cardinal fan. I don't remember, I forget the year. I just know we were playing the Dodgers, and he came in after the game. That was a big thrill to meet him. Maude Frickard was one of his characters.
Remember him in It's a Mad World.
Played the service station attendant, correct?
One of the great funny movies of all time.
Oh. Dick Shawn made me laugh in that film. He was the son of, I can't think of her name.
There's a strike to Sexton, 2-2.
Ethel Merman.
It's under a big W.
Yes, Spencer Tracy. It was a cast of
every funny person in America was in that movie.
Yes.
Reed at first and nobody out. And Sexton fists one foul. Richie Sexton swung the bat well last night, drove in 3 runs, but it has been a dreadful season for Sexton.
Well, he's just not getting the barrel out, and if John Maine throws him anything off speed, he should be put before a firing squad.
That's a little severe, don't you think?
just a.
Now you made me think of a different movie. Now I'm thinking of Bananas. 2-2 to Sexton, and the fastball misses outside. 96 from Maine.
John's throwing hard. And that easy motion of his, effortless delivery, and that ball just jumps at the hitters.
Reed takes off, and Sexton pops it up in foul ground, and that'll go out of play. Interesting decision by Jim Riggleman. Down 8-0 with a guy who has struck out over 70 times this year at the plate.
Well, I think you see Eddie Rodriguez, the first base coach, pointing over to third base coach Sammy Palazzo and saying, "There's Sammy, former coach of the Mets when I was around. Coach third base for us, wearing glasses now."
That managed in Baltimore. So you're saying that Mr. Reed missed a sign? Nope, he's running again, and Sexton hits it through the vacated hole. How about that?
Wow, 3-2 and running.
Reed goes first to third, and so the Mariners, with a couple of base hits, have runners at the corners and nobody out. Ryan Roland Smith, the left-hander, up in the bullpen. Text your response if you're interested to 57508 or visit sny.tv.
I hate to say it, I played in 5 All-Star games, and I should have probably played in 9.
And you blame fan balloting.
Of course, they're voting. I guess we had Pete Rose, Willie Stargell, and Steve Garvey. I had to break through that barrier. You know, an All-Star game means a lot to a player. It's a nice, all of a sudden, Maine in a little bit of trouble here. 2-0 with an 8-run lead, and there's the ballot right there.
He's studying it. He's taking this seriously.
It's like one of those. Is that a butterfly ballot?
Yes, I believe it is. with Chad's.
Chad? I got a great T-shirt at home. I bought 4 of them. It says "Got Chad" in the front, and then it has the check boxes in the back. Every possible Chad that those guys had to look at.
All hanging.
Hanging Chad.
Semi-perforated Chad. Chad Everett. Ooh. There's strike 2-1. Chad and Jeremy. The number 8 hitter Willie Bloomquist on deck. Clement hit a comebacker his first time up, and he shoots one foul. 2-2. Jeff Clement out of USC, number 1 pick by the Mariners in 05, and they are very, very high on his bat.
There's the pitch count for Johnny right there.
Very reasonable so far. He had that quick inning in the 4th where he threw only 6 pitches. He's found some trouble here in the 5th with the first 2 men on. And Clement fouls that one off Schneider.
Clement is a low ball hitter. You can see that low ball swing. You've got to go up the ladder on him right now.
That's where John usually goes for his strikeouts. And he struck out Clement. Foul tip held by Schneider. Just the second strikeout of the night for John Maine.
Well, it's not up the ladder. It's just belt high outside corner right on the black. Clement is a shade tardy.
So that's the first out of the inning for Maine. And now Willie Bloomquist, who drew a walk his first time up. Bloomquist started the first 2 games of this series in center field, playing shortstop tonight. So Maine, who has generated only 1 ground ball double play this season, could use one here. He throws the slider off the plate, 1-0. Coming into the night, Maine had 68 batters in double play situations, but only 1 ground ball double play.
Well, he's a fly ball pitcher, and I love the life on his fastball upstairs. He's developed a good little slider, hard slider. Changeup needs a little work. Just that easy motion. He sees a little angry at himself there, falling behind 2-1. But he's just got that easy, fluid motion, and then the ball just comes at you in 93, 94. A lot of giddy up on it.
And we've seen it over the course of his Mets career. When he faces teams that have never seen him before, those teams have trouble with him because that motion is so deceptive.
Well, first time around, it's always an advantage pitcher. Unless, of course, they're Greg Maddux, the great ones. But if a pitcher has a certain pitch that's deceptive, hitters should become aware of it.
2-2 to Bloomquist, popped foul. Jamie Burke, the third string catcher for the Mariners, out on deck to pinch hit.
Who was the Orioles starter, Morgan, that got traded over?
Mike
Morgan got traded over to the Cubs. And I remember the first time I faced him in Wrigley Field, Gary, and he didn't throw that hard. But when he threw the fastball upstairs, it was very sneaky. And he got me out the first time I faced him.
Line toward the middle, base hit for Bloomquist, and that'll bring home the first Seattle run. Reed comes in to score. Third hit of the inning, not hit hard by Bloomquist, but he snuck it up the middle to drive in his 5th run of the season. And it's 8-1 New York.
Slider, not a bad spot. Pretty good hitting right there. And out to the mound goes pitching coach Dan Warthen. But getting back to that point real quick, Gare, about Mike Morgan was, I got the next time and he did it again. So I had 2 at-bats. And then I realized right then that I had to make him, Mike Morgan, get the fastball down. That was his sneak pitch, deceptive pitch to get you out, usually a pop-up. And I had to lay off that pitch, and I just put it in the catalog down in the back of my head.
It'll be Miguel Cairo instead of Jamie Burke now to pinch hit for the Mariners. So the former Met Cairo, who's come on for defense in each of the last 2 games, gets a pinch hitting assignment here with 2 on and 1 out. A run is in for the Mariners. 8-1 New York. Cairo hitting just 194 on the season. He takes a strike. Ryan Roland Smith up in the bullpen. And he mentioned Mike Morgan, and what comes to mind about Morgan is the fact that he had that one really good year with the Cubs. I think he won 15 games. And it was that year that convinced the Cubs that he could be their ace, and they let Greg Maddux walk away. And Maddux signed with the Braves. Ground ball up the middle and a base hit for Cairo. Sexton to third. He'll be held up there, and the Mariners have the bases loaded. So that's the 4th hit of the inning off John Maine. None of them hit particularly hard, but they've got a run in, and now the base is loaded with Ichiro coming up.
Well, this ball's hit hard enough. Fastball not in enough. Came a little bit out over the middle, right up the middle. Nice hitting by Miguel. And all of a sudden, very much like Oliver Perez, John Maine in that 5th, 6th inning, finding a little bump on the road, and he's got one of the best hitters in the game up at the plate.
Ichiro has flied to left and lined out to center field. Maine had not allowed a hit over the first 4 innings. He's given up 4 hits here in the 5th. And Ichiro lays off the high fastball 1-0.
And it seems right now Ichiro is a different hitter when there's nobody on base and when there's men on base. At least in this series, Gary, when there's men on base and runs to be driven in.
Look at those numbers with the bases loaded. 467, and he cranks that one deep down the right field line, hooking, foul.
Just seems like Ichiro's concentrates more when the Ducks are on the pond as opposed to coming up with no one on base. And he got a little bit out in front there. Change up, running away, and just enough to get on the end of that bat. That's a great shot right there.
It's to left. That'll get a run in. Anderson gets his feet tangled, but manages to recover to make the catch. And Sexton tags and scores. Sacrifice fly for Ichiro Suzuki. And now it's 8-2 New York. Ichiro's 21st run batted in.
Well, fastball away. Ichiro goes right with it. And with the Mets way ahead, your outfielders are going to play a little bit deeper, particularly with men on base. No doubles. You got the big lead. Marlin tracks it down easily.
So now 2 out and 2 on with 2 runs home. And here's Jose Lopez, who's been up twice and flied out both times. Lopez had 4 hits in the first 2 games of the series as he takes a slider for a strike.
He's a nice little player. He's impressed me. It's the first time I've seen him, Gare, and he swings the bat. Where was that pitch? Looked like a pretty good slider to me.
You've got a vacation replacement umpire behind home plate, Scott Barry. Popped up. And Castillo out behind the bag. And that retires the side. Maine gives up 4 hits and a couple of runs. Mets still with a 6-run lead, and Jose Reyes will get a turn at bat when the Mets come up in the bottom of the 5th. Reyes with a 3-run bomb his last time up. 8-2 New York. Hey, it's your Sovereign Bank 5th inning recap. David Wright homered in each of the first 2 innings after a day off yesterday. That makes the manager look brilliant. Jose Reyes a 3-run homer, and the Mets jumped out to the big lead. Mariners got a couple back against John Maine in the 5th, and now the 3rd Seattle pitcher of the night, Ryan Roland Smith.
And Ryan Roland Smith came through in sparkling 2 innings of relief with 3 strikeouts. The Australian, the Aussie, in the first game of the series. Right over the top, hard fastball, curveball pitcher. And he begins the second half of this ball game, Gare.
You mean we're halfway? Brian Schneider leads off. Brian has grounded out, walked, and scored a run. And Smith has Schneider confused. It's 0-2. Pedro's going to pitch the Friday night game against the Yankees here at Shea as Schneider lines one to right. There's your Mets upcoming schedule. Remember, all Mets games on SNY are available in HD, presented by IOTV. Day night 2 stadium doubleheader on Friday. It'll be Mike Pelfrey against Dan Geis in the day game at Yankee Stadium, and then Pedro against Sidney Ponson, of all people, on Friday night here at Shea. Sidney Ponson was pitching well for Texas, and they released him because they said he was a detriment to the ball club.
Sidney's always trouble seems to find Sidney.
Well, he's had alcohol problems. He had he punched out a judge on the beach in Aruba. That was a mistake.
That doesn't happen. You don't do that.
Maine down swinging, and that's the 2nd out of the inning. And, you know, for the pitching poor Texas Rangers to release a guy who had been pitching well for them, it had to be pretty serious, whatever it was that Sidney did that got himself released. But you know, the Yankees were also desperate for pitching, and Ponson had done a nice job for the Yankees briefly when he pitched for them a couple of years ago, and so they'll be pitching at Shea on Friday night. Here's Reyes, who had a 3-run homer his last time up. He did that batting left-handed, now up for the right side. He's hit 2 home runs as a right-hand batter, 7 left-handed this year. And he takes the changeup away, 1-1.
Only 4 of the Met 8 runs are earned. The critical error made in that 1-hit 4-run third by Gold Glove third baseman Adrian Beltre. Opened the floodgates up for that inning.
And that led to the Reyes home run.
It's a nice breaking ball when that shot there. You folks at home hope you were paying attention.
Daring in on the right-hand batter. 2-2 now to Reyes. Ryan Roland Smith holds 2 distinctions: the first ever hyphenated player in the major leagues, and the first player ever signed from Newcastle, Australia.
Isn't that a beer?
Newcastle?
Yeah.
I don't think it's from Australia.
It's
though.
a British beer.
Yeah. Reyes lines it to left. It stays up for Ibanez. And it's a 1-2-3 inning for Ryan Roland Smith, featuring a couple of line drive outs. John Maine back to the mound with a 6-run lead. Struck out 19 and walked 10 in 13 innings. And they didn't keep an actual pitch count on that game, but a little creative speculation indicates that Ryan might have thrown upwards of 230 pitches in that game.
I'm not a proponent of the pitch count, but I don't believe in throwing someone 13 innings.
Well, if you go back to 1920,
I understand.
The longest game ever played, as Ibanez lifts one to right field for Tatis.
Well, also that game that Marichal and Warren Spahn hooked up in.
1920, Leon Cador and Joe Eschker each pitched 26 innings in a 1-1 tie for the Braves and the Dodgers. 26 innings. How many pitches do you think they threw? And they weren't throwing underhand in 1920.
I couldn't even tell you.
But
300.
Marichal and Spahn, that was 16 innings, right?
Yes.
1963.
I don't agree with that. That's too much stress on an arm.
Well, you know, if you go back about 15 years, as you look at Tampa Bay, a couple of home runs by Carl Crawford tonight, and they are blowing out the Marlins. So the National League East continues to struggle. You go back not that many years. If you'll remember when David Cohn pitched here, which had to be, Buddy was the manager, so it had to be 1991. And Buddy had David throw 166 pitches in a game against the Giants. And that was a big deal. Even then, 166 pitches. So, you know, things have changed gradually over time. Now you can't even imagine a manager allowing a pitcher to throw 166 pitches.
No.
I mean, now if a manager allowed a pitcher to throw 130 pitches, it would be considered extreme.
Well, yes. There's ball 4 right there to Beltre, excuse me. I just think 9 innings is a max. I remember the day when Juan Marichal would pitch and they would throw 10 innings in the hopes that they can get him a win.
Right.
And maybe the team would score for them in the 10th inning, and I don't agree with that. But
well, in the 60s, that was routine, though.
Yep.
I mean, Seaver would pitch 10 innings, and remember, Mets played a game in the 60s. I guess it was 65 or 66. Jim Maloney actually had a no-hitter for 10 innings against the Mets, and then Johnny Lewis broke it up with a home run in the 11th.
And for you folks, Jim Maloney was one of the best pitchers, and no one knows about it, in the 60s with the Reds. He was a terrific pitcher. He had great fastball, great breaking ball, and evidently started throwing a little wet one. Picked up that pitch to go with it as the third pitch in his repertoire, and he was a great pitcher, and no one ever hears a word about him.
And a little earlier in the 60s, they had Joey J on that staff in Cincinnati, too. I guess that was back when, in 61, when the Reds beat the Yankees in the World Series. They had some tremendous pitching on that Cincinnati team. A franchise that's always been known more for their bats than for their arms.
They had in 62, Bob Perky 120 for them. Joey J 120 that year. Maloney was just coming up that half of the year. I believe he was just on his way up. And of course, Frank Robinson was with the Reds back then.
2-2 to Jeremy Reed, with 1 on and 1 out in the 6th. Lined over short, a base hit for Reed. Anderson gets over to stop it, and Beltre stops at second. So that's the 5th hit for the Mariners against John Maine. And after John was so economical with his pitches early in the game, the pitch count has begun to creep up on him now. Snyder out for a talk. No action yet on the Mets bullpen. Maine's up to 94 pitches on the night. And, you know, we were talking about pitch counts. Dan Warthen has said there's no reason that starters can't throw 120 pitches. And Maine's already done that once this year. And now Feliciano gets up. Richie Sexson, the batter. Sexson had a hit and run single his last time up. And Maine misses outside and low with the fastball. Now Aaron Heilman gets up alongside Pedro Feliciano in the Mets bullpen.
One thing that Jerry Manuel has done is just try and nurse Heilman back into old form.
Grounded towards short, not hit hard. Reyes gets the out at second, and that's all. So Reed erased on the 6-4 force.
Well, you want to make sure of one right there. Not a great throw from Reyes. Had to kind of rush the throw. Nice hustle there by Reed. And Castillo, don't even think about turning two. Just you got a big lead, get that, make sure that first out.
So runners at the corners with 2 down for Jeff Clement, who's hit a comebacker and struck out 0 for 2. Each team has 5 hits in this game, but the Mets have hit 3 home runs, 2 of them by David Wright, 1 by Jose Reyes, and the Mets with an 8-2 lead. 0-1 to Clement. Clement was up a little bit earlier in the year and didn't hit at all. They sent him back down to the minor leagues, but with the Mariners dead and buried in the American League West, they decided to bring Clement back up and play him most of the time.
Well, he went back down to Tacoma in AAA and wore it out. I mean, he just had a miserable start this year, and you know, Kenji Jojima, the catcher, starting catcher for Seattle, is just having a terrible year.
Sean Green, the right-hander up in the Seattle bullpen. Well, Jim Riggleman called Jojima into his office Sunday, and with an interpreter there, explained to him that he just was not going to be playing as much, that they had to look at Clement, that he was going to do most of the catching. 1-2 hit off the end of the bat foul. Now, you know, we just saw another runner do that. That happened in Chicago. Derek Lee picking up that ground ball, and Adrian Beltre just did the same thing. And the Mets didn't argue it in Chicago, and we didn't understand why. You cannot pick up that ground ball if you're the runner before it gets to the bag. And
exactly.
Again, no protest.
Well, I'm sure if it was a close ball game, there would be. I mean, and the reason why you cannot, the runner can't do that, because it might hit a rock, and the odds are 1,000,000 to 1 it's not going to happen, but it could hit something and take it into fair territory.
Struck him out. Maine gets Clement to make it a moot point, but I had never seen that before this year, and now we've seen it twice this season. David Wright's hit 2 home runs tonight. He has a crack to become the first Met ever to hit 3 home runs in a game at Shea. He'll get a turn at bat as we go to the bottom of the 6th. John Maine coming off the mound after 6 innings. He threw 53 pitches in the last 2 innings, and it looks like he's done. And, you know, Keith, he is so hard on himself.
Yes, he is.
Luis Castillo strokes the first pitch to center field, chasing Reed back, and Reed makes the catch. Reed had to send it into an extra gear as that ball took off Castillo's bat for the first out. And now David Wright.
Oh, big night for David.
Third baseman, David Wright.
David hit a solo home run in the first inning, a 2-run homer in the second inning. He walked in the third. Now facing a left-hander for the first time tonight. David has torn up lefties all year, hitting .435 against left-handed pitching, with Ryan Roland Smith on the mound. And he takes a fastball for a strike. Lifted to right field, shallow. Out goes Lopez, and that's the second out of the inning. 14-0 Rays in the 5th.
Some swollen earned run averages.
Aaron Heilman up in the Mets bullpen.
And again, another good game to run Aaron out there.
Well, Aaron has been pitching very, very well in the month of June, and it's mostly non-leveraged situations, but nonetheless, the improvement has been consistent.
Well, I've said it from the beginning. The Mets need, if they're going to win, they're going to need it from Aaron.
Beltran pops one foul back into the crowd.
And I recall now it was Sanchez back, that 2006, when Heilman and Sanchez shared the bridging to Wagner, and it was a great 1-2 setup role right there. for then manager Willie Randolph. And you're not going to tax your or overwork your. If you have one setup man, you're not going to overwork them. You can share the load. Be strong all year.
3-1 to Beltran in for a strike. Looks like we got a new sign man in the ballpark. See the guy in the Ed Craneful
Yep.
shirt?
Remember that the old look?
He thinks he's Carl Earhart. Flied into shallow left, and Raul Ibanez stands under it. So 10 straight Mets have gone down against the Seattle bullpen. Maine is done after 6. The Mets with an 8-2 lead.
This copyrighted telecast is presented by authority of Sterling Mets and may not be reproduced or retransmitted in any form. And the accounts and descriptions of this game may not be disseminated without the express written consent of Sterling Mets.
Time to answer the Aflac trivia question. What was the runner-up name for the Mets when they were established? You know, Skyliners was one of the ones they considered.
Thank goodness they didn't use that.
Well, there it is. That was the runner-up.
Sounds like
I think Rebels was also one of the considerations.
Why the Rebels?
I don't know. Maybe because they were the new kids in town. Kind of a James Dean feel to it. There's Aaron Heilman ready to pitch the 7th inning. Willie Bloomquist takes a strike.
Well, Aaron, as Gary said, is slowly getting that earned run average down, pitching much better this month. And they're running him out there to try to get him to find his rhythm and get it back to the old form.
Pitched a hitless inning night before last in the opening game of this series. And in the month of June, he's worked 11 innings and allowed only 1 earned run. Arthur Rhodes, who got the save on Monday night, now up in the Seattle bullpen. 10-run 5th inning for the Tampa Bay Rays.
Football score.
Blomquist fouls it off. Meanwhile, we mentioned Tim Wakefield earlier. He now has 7 shutout innings with only 2 hits. It's a big week for the knuckleballers. So he's duplicated what Dickey did last night. His new pupil. There's the American League East standings. The Red Sox leading by a game over the Rays, 5.5 over the Yankees.
The Yankees have come a long way. They're hanging around.
They got blown out in Pittsburgh last night, but they're up 8-0 tonight. Line to left. Anderson tries to make the backhand catch, and he got it. Marlon Anderson with a beautiful play.
Yes, sir. Nice backhand right there. Marlon playing out of position. Came up as a second baseman with the Phils. And that's just a very nice play.
Well, the Mets have played wonderful outfield defense all year. They've got some extremely gifted outfielders, guys like Chavez and Beltran and Church, but they're a fill-in guy. Anderson does a terrific job. Jamie Burke, the pinch hitter, takes a strike. Burke appeared in the opening game of this series as a pinch hitter and grounded out. And he fists one foul, and it's 0-2. To Burke. Weakly hit to second. And Castillo makes the toss for the second out. So 2 up and 2 set aside by Aaron Heilman in the 7th inning. And back to the top of the batting order for Ichiro Suzuki.
The right fielder,
Ichiro drove in a run with a sacrifice fly his last time up. Seven straight seasons of 200 hits.
Hi, Gary, Keith, and Ron.
See, now there's a sign man who has all the right signs.
That's a nice looking uniform in there. The one that's crying 2 good first basemen right there.
7 and 17. See, he's got a collection.
Yes, he does, and he's spent a few coin on it too. That's not a cheap job there. That's very stylish.
Well, you know, Carl Earhart, the original sign man at Shea, that was his profession. He was a sign maker. had those very colorful signs, the black with the white or multicolored lettering on them.
Do you remember the bad days at Shea in the late 70s when he was probably the only one in there with that sign?
Well, he had more room to keep his sign.
Yes.
I always wondered because he sat in the middle of the field. This guy's in the front row, so he's got a place to put his signs. But Carl Earhart sat kind of in one of those boxes behind the third base dugout,
Yes.
and there's not a lot of room there to keep. I always wondered how he managed to stack them up.
He sat right around in there, didn't he?
He was here from. I don't know if he was here the first year Shea was open in '64, but he was a fixture here for about 20 years. And recently passed away. But he was one of those characters who made Shea a very special place.
Yes. No question.
He always had the right sign for the right moment. Ichiro draws a walk, and so the Mariners have a 2-out base runner. So now Heilmann will take on Jose Lopez, who's gone 0 for 3 in this game. Has hit the ball in the air 3 times in a row. Mets scored all 8 of their runs in the first 3 innings. We were talking about that with Howard Johnson earlier about scoring early, not doing much in the middle of the game, and that's what's happened so far here tonight. Of course, if you score 8 in the first 3 innings, you don't have to do as much in the middle of the game. Nonetheless, the pattern is held. And Lopez swings over the changeup, and it's 1-1. Jose Lopez, just 24 years old, and one of the cornerstones of this Seattle team. A team that, much like the Mets, this year was built to win now, with older players like Richie Sexson and Raul Ibanez and Kenji Jojima, Adrian Beltre. But things have not worked out for the Mariners to an even much greater extent than for the Mets. And they are, well, they're done. I mean, they're buried as far as this year is concerned. 2-2 now to Lopez. 19.5 games back in the American League West. And just about as far out of the wild card race. 2-2. Looped into shallow center. That'll fall for a hit. Suzuki goes to second, and so the Mariners have 2 men on. That's hit number 6 for Seattle. So Lopez has hit in all 3 games in this series, and now Raul Ibanez comes up with 2 men on.
And again, I can't reiterate enough. Ibanez has lost a little bit of that bat speed, and you got a change-up pitcher in Heilmann here. You don't want to do any favors and let him get that barrel of the bat out. Just pound him with the hard stuff.
Ibanez 0 for 3 tonight. 3 for 12 in the series, at a home run last night. And he takes a strike, fastball. Ichiro at second, Lopez at first with 2 out. 8-2 New York, 7th inning. Ibanez chases one, and it's 0-2.
No chance to even catch up with that one. He knew he swung at a bad pitch. Running fastball away.
Joe Smith getting up in the Mets bullpen.
Well, Joe hasn't thrown since the 22nd in Colorado. Good game for Jerry Manuel to fine-tune the bullpen, just keep him sharp.
Reyes breaks his back, rolls it out to Castillo. Side retired. So Howman gives up a walk and a base hit. Puts up a 0 in the 7th. 8-2 New York. The veteran Arthur Lee Rhodes is on to pitch as we go to the bottom of the 7th.
Well, Arthur Rhodes, the veteran that came in the first game of this series, 5-2 ball game, got the save. He was throwing bullets. 2/3, 2 punch outs, struck out Delgado and easily.
And Delgado launches one to deep center field. Back goes Reed onto the warning track, and Reed runs it down.
And Delgado became that close to a birthday home run. Just missed.
Well, let's see if he got the barrel on it. He did. Got under just enough. And this is Shea Stadium. This is a pitcher's park. Well, you see the contact right on that barrel. He just got under it and he knew it.
So 1 long out, and now Fernando Tatis, who's 1 for 3 on the night. And he takes a strike from Rhodes. Tatis playing right field in tonight's game after picking up 3 hits last night. The Mets only have 5 hits in this game. Tatis pops one foul. That'll go out of play.
It's interesting. Arthur Rhodes right now, we got the radar gun. You saw not even breaking 90. And he was throwing some serious gasoline in that first game of the series. Mid-90s. He's throwing 87, 88.
Well, Rhodes was pressed into service as the closer on Monday night. It was 5-1 going to the 9th. They brought in Sean Green. The Mets had a run home. They had a threat going. They got the tying run to the plate with Delgado, and Rhodes just iced him. Marlon Anderson on deck. Rhodes missed all of last season with Tommy John surgery. Coming back at the age of 38. As Tatis shoots one foul. And Rhodes is a guy who's been a tremendous setup man and lefty specialist throughout his career, but most of the time when handed a closer's role, that has not been something that he's been able to run with. But in that spot situation Monday night, he was perfect.
Well, we're just getting ready to turn the corner in this season. Getting close to that second half, Gary. Big road trip coming up. Big series with the Yankees. And there's the countdown right now. 45 left at Shea. Got Tugger, right?
45. Cousins wrong. You still see that glove slapping against the thigh as he walked off after a big inning.
Coming in on that golf cart with the baseball cap.
Right. And he'd always, when he came in that old-fashioned bullpen car, he would always toss his glove out to the bat boy before he stepped.
He was a character.
Stepped out of the car. He was something else. Tatis strikes out, and so Rhodes has retired the first 2 here in the bottom of the 7th.
The left fielder.
Now Marlon Anderson will bat. As you check out the New York Lottery box score, Jose Reyes a 3-run homer. David Wright homered in each of the first 2 innings, and that's been most of the Mets offense tonight. They've managed only 5 hits, but they've had the big ones. Mets scored all 8 runs in the first 3 innings and lead at 8-2. Doug McGraw, known for,
look at that stress on the elbow. Gosh, that's painful.
He's right over the top. Anderson lifts it to center field, and Jeremy Reed is there, and it's a 1-2-3 inning for Arthur Rhodes. So 13 straight Mets have been retired by the Seattle bullpen, but the Mets with a 6-run lead as we go to the 8th at Shea. Well, the first time the Mets and Yankees played a 2-stadium doubleheader was in the 2000 season, and it was not a great day for the Mets. They lost the opener at Shea, went to Yankee Stadium with the police escort, and Mike Piazza got hit in the head by Roger Clemens that night. They did it again in 2003. And they're going to do it again on Friday. It's Glenn and Rush.
Yep.
Part of that 2000 Mets team.
Reminded me of the old, Tatis goes to first.
17 at first base. Looks right.
It does, doesn't it? There's Big Joe. Joe is 36th appearance, and Joe has been really the guy they've gone to with men on base. Come in to put the fire out. Not really starting an inning. Andy out there. Where's Andy? Out and right.
Right where he should be. So the pitcher will bat in Delgado's number 5 hole. Delgado gets a couple of innings off on his birthday. Adrian Beltre leads off against Joe Smith in the 8th inning. Now, we showed the pictures of the teams commuting from one stadium to another between games of that day-night doubleheader, commuting in their uniforms. Yes. From a player's standpoint, how much would that kind of a day upset your routine?
It wouldn't upset your routine. You got to plug through it. I played day-night doubleheaders in the minor leagues. You don't like them. You'd rather play back-to-back the old-fashioned way. You know, what was it? How many, out of curiosity, the norm, Gary, in the regular doubleheader, how many minutes in between games in the old days?
20, 25 minutes. Right back to the mound for Smith. And he throws out Beltre one away. But just to have to get on a bus in between games in your uniform, not a big deal. Brandon Morrow up in the bullpen for Seattle.
It's like a minor league. It's like a spring training game, really, and it's not like you're making a 2-hour trip, you know, to play an American League team in spring. And so it wouldn't. I wouldn't have a problem with it.
What if they made you take the subway?
That would not work.
Here's Jeremy Reed, and he takes ball 1. Well, all I can say is if you're a fan and you're intending to go to both games on Friday, don't drive. I mean, can you imagine what that's going to be like? Trying to get out of Yankee Stadium at 5:30 on a Friday afternoon in the summertime to make your way to Shea without a police escort. I mean, the team's going to have a police escort, so they'll make it okay. But if you're an average fan trying to make that commute,
that's like you were a member of the old Politburo in the Soviet Union. Back when it was the Soviet Union.
What does that have to do with anything?
Well, they had special lanes for Brezhnev and his crew.
I see.
Very egalitarian, that communism.
Cold War at Fenway. Richie Sexton takes ball 1. Special lanes for Brezhnev.
They did.
Where have those days gone? 2-0 to Sexton. I remember when the Mets played in Puerto Rico, when the Expos played part of their schedule in San Juan, and you take the bus to the ballpark from the hotel in Puerto Rico, and the police would, I mean, you talk about a police escort, there would be like 20 motorcycle cops cutting off traffic from all directions. It was scary. 2-1 to Sexton. I know that the NYPD will take a much more measured approach.
Of course.
Slider misses to Sexton, and it's 3-1. John Maine went the first 6 innings, allowed 2 runs and 5 hits, walked 2, struck out 3. Well, the sign man keeps changing headgear.
They're having fun.
I think I wonder if they plan to be a fixture here with those signs.
I hope they are.
Sexton draws a 2-out walk.
I don't know if their wives would approve.
How do you know they're married?
Well, that's a good point.
The catcher, Jeff Clements.
Is Jeff Clement, who's 0 for 3. Hit a comebacker and struck out twice. No need to hold Sexton on, particularly with the Mets holding a 6-run lead in the 8th. Clement swings and misses at the changeup, 0-1.
Nice changeup by Joe right there. Very nice weapon for him if he can throw that pitch to a left-hand hitter.
Haven't seen much of that.
No. There he missed with that one. It's hard to, when you learn a new pitch, I would think, to do it back to back.
Sexton's going to run, and Clement grounds one down to Tatis. He puts it in his pocket and takes it himself. And a hitless inning for Joe Smith. Middle of the 8th at Shea. The Mets have been in the lead all night. Feels good for them.
New York City.
Jose Vidro is in the game to play first base. Vidro batting ninth. And Brandon Morrow, who has had a terrific year as the setup man for the Mariners, comes on to pitch.
And he's had some physical problems, lower back. He's missed around a week. Did not pitch in that Atlanta series prior to coming here to New York.
Brian Schneider takes a strike. In fact, he didn't even make the trip to Atlanta because they didn't want to put him on the plane with those back spasms. Juaner Sanchez up in the Mets bullpen, getting ready to pitch the 9th inning. Schneider's 0 for 2 and a walk tonight. Mets scored 2 in the first, 2 in the second, 4 in the third. And they haven't had a base runner since. Schneider trying to end that, lifts it to left, but Ibanez is there. And that's the first out. That is 15 Mets in a row who have been retired by the Seattle bullpen. So 1 out and nobody on. Andy Chavez will come up for the first time.
And a nice move by Jerry Manuel to get Endy with the flip-flop in and get him in at bat. Try to keep him sharp. And I just think Endy is such a one of those components of this team that's critical to the Mets' success.
And Chavez takes ball 1.
Taking the subway, Ethan. Ethan just asked me if I was driving to Yankee Stadium.
You're not taking the subway.
I'm taking the subway.
You are?
I always do when they go to Yankee Stadium.
Do people?
No, they're fine. They know who I am, sure.
Chavez lifts one to center field, and Jeremy Reed drifts over, and that's the second out. Now, you're going to take the subway to Yankee Stadium. What are you going to do to get from there to here?
I'll take the bus to here. But if it was a regular game, just one game, I'd take the subway back.
Really?
Yeah.
So where to second?
Well, I would stay in the city. So I'll be coming from the city because of the 2 games. So
maybe you.
The fans are great to me on the subway.
Go to Penn Station, take the train out. No, you wouldn't do that.
No, it's actually kind of a fun subway ride because it's a mixture of both Yankee and Met fans.
There's Jose Reyes, who hit a 3-run homer back in the 3rd.
Hey, Keith, can you bring the video camera on the subway? Because I am dying to see what that will be like.
Why don't you come with me?
It's going to be like when you took Joe Smith on the subway.
I think it'll be a lot more entertaining, actually.
Well, sure, because nobody recognized Joe at the time.
I love it when people say, "Are you who I think you are?" And I go, "Well, that depends on who you think I am."
And who did they think you are?
They say Keith Hernandez, and I go, "Yes." You go, "What are you doing on this subway? What are you taking the subway for?" "Why not? It's the best way to get around New York."
There's no question about that.
Yep.
0-2 to Reyes, and he fouls it back. Now, when you were playing for the Cardinals and you came to New York, did you take the subway to the ballpark?
Very right. I took the 7 because we stayed over on 7th Avenue, or was it 6th Avenue, the old Sheridan.
7th Avenue. Yeah.
So 7th. So it was a kind of convoluted way to get to the park there. So I'd always take the bus. But once the teams moved over to the Grand Central,
the Hyatt,
yes, it was easy just to go right downstairs and take the 7 right on out. I'm sure I did sometimes. Santa Claus.
A little warm for that hat, don't you think?
I love it. Oh, the old road uniforms.
That is my least favorite Mets road uniform.
I tried to get Charlie Samuels to get us back in the old-fashioned Met road uniforms, and he didn't do it.
Reyes grounds one to the second baseman. Lopez throws him out. 1-2-3 inning. So the Mets haven't had a base runner since the 3rd, but 3 outs to acquire, and they lead 8-2. Time to check out your Toyota scoreboard this afternoon. Kelly Johnson, 3 RBIs as the Braves salvaged the finale of their series with Milwaukee. The Cubs, who lost to the Orioles last night, leading 6-2 in the 4th tonight. Texas on top of Houston, 3-2 early. Kansas City takes their 11-3 record in interleague play against Colorado tonight. They've got a 2-1 lead. You see the late games. Phillies playing again in Oakland, trying to snap a 6-game losing streak. They'll have Kyle Kendrick tonight against Greg Smith. The Yankees behind Jabba Chamberlain are shutting out the Pirates as they go to the 8th. Tim Wakefield has only allowed 2 hits through 8 innings. And the Red Sox lead in the Diamondbacks. Rain delay in Detroit. Rick Ankiel has 2 home runs in that game for the Cardinals. Giants leading in Cleveland tonight. Cincinnati and Toronto tied on the 7th. Angels and Nationals tied in the 8th. Lessings Millage has a home run tonight, and Tampa Bay had that 10-run 5th inning and leads at Florida 14-1.
And Duaner Sanchez coming in for his 32nd appearance. This is really a nice night for Jerry Manuel to, like I said earlier, to kind of fine-tune his start as the relievers.
Willie Bloomquist takes the first pitch strike.
It's a long day Friday with the doing the day-night doubleheader. Nice off day tomorrow. I think I heard, Gary, that Giants in Cleveland right now it's the first time the Giants have been back to Cleveland since the 54 World Series.
World Series, yeah. And of course, that also is a homecoming for Omar Vizquel. It's his first time back in Cleveland since he left there, and he is an absolute legend. In there for a call strike 3. Bloomquist down looking.
Well, I understand the first game, and here's the strike, a fastball on the outside corner. And you know what? It's 8-2. Swing the bat. In the school of Frank Pulley. They gave him a nice tribute too. Opening day. I mean, not opening day. The first game of the series, and very nicely done by the Indians.
Video tribute, big ovation. Omar Vizquel won 11 Gold Gloves with the Indians. Here's Jose Vidro up for the first time. Vidro hits it hard, but right at the second baseman. Castillo plays it off to the side and throws out Vidro, and quickly there are 2 down. Well, right after the game, stand by, because while Keith and I are here, Ronnie's in the studio. Yes, sir. Ron Darling making a cameo with Matt Yaloff on Nissan Post-Game Live, which means you're going to hear some stellar insight that you just can't get anywhere else. All coming up after the game on Nissan Post-Game Live. You can also log on to SNY.TV afterwards for the latest post-game reactions on Nissan Post-Game Extra. That'll be you and me.
Yes.
Doing our hit for the website.
But we look forward to that. We put a lot of effort into that.
And sometimes some thought too.
Yes.
That one foul tipped off Schneider. He was reaching for that ball, and he was open up for that foul tip. Unexpected. Ooh, that hurts.
Well, that's why I was glad I was left-handed, folks. You couldn't have dragged me back there. Oh, young man.
Where are his parents?
Dennis the Menace.
Mariners down to their final strike. Mike Squires, Dale Long, Benny DiStefano. You know what they had in common, right?
No.
All left-handed catchers. 0-2 to Ichiro. And he struck him out. Schneider slaps on the tag, and the ball game is over. Sanchez comes on to pitch a 1-2-3 ninth inning, and after dropping the first 2 games of the series, David Wright comes back from a day off, hits 2 home runs. Jose Reyes a 3-run homer, and the Mets cruise to an 8-2 victory over Seattle to salvage the finale of the series.
Well, believe it or not, in a lopsided game as this, an 8-2 finish, as Gary said, the Mets were out hit 6-5. Got those hits early in the game. Of course, David Wright, a big day. Jose Reyes, a big day. John Maine gets his 8th win. They break the 2-game losing streak. On to the Yankees.
Well, Reyes hit the 3-run homer right after the day off, hit 2 homers. Day off tomorrow. Mets go into the day off with a win as they take it 8-2. Back with more from Shea in just a moment.